Hi, this is Ed from Wright. I know it's been a long time since we put up a video. It's not because I've been absent, it's just been really busy on the manufacturing side of the business. We have a lot of great things going on. So today what we're going to do is we're going to go over a number of different questions that came through from many of you on some of our Facebook or Instagram pages. So first off, from Dan, how's supply chain looking for assembly parts? Still piecemealing together what you can and what's available, or are you able to run normal production? As a manufacturer, are you being pressured by the engine manufacturers where they will be phasing out certain engine classes, forcing you to develop battery-powered replacements? So sort of two questions. So first off, yes, supply chain issues still are very, very significant. It just keeps changing flavors though. So at one point, we were waiting on parts on ships out in the ocean. Not that a lot of our components come from there, but it just takes one part to shut down the whole system. Now what happens is the supplier might miss a shipment and they don't have the capacity to make it back up. And so we're short, but probably think that's good news in many cases now, maybe more than it has been in the past, is that sometimes we can then jump to another supplier as an alternate and keep things running. So that sometimes means that, like for example, if you keep a real keen eye on some of our mowers, you'll see that the chute deflector rubber material has changed about 3 times this year, the texture on it. So yeah, we're still duck and weaving a lot of things. The good news is that prices are more stable. The price of steel has come down a little bit. And so I think we're going to see a little bit more cost stability. There's still a lot of inflation that's kind of stuck in, but we're fighting back on as much of that as possible. Are engine manufacturers pressuring us into a battery, basically? No, actually, a lot of the engine manufacturers, they love making engines. They've got no reason to try to get rid of engines. It's what their business is built around. And one of the things that's interesting is many of the engine companies better understand power delivery than the electric folks, mobile power. And they understand that the power needs that we have for these mowers is so high compared to a hybrid vehicle or something that has regen capabilities. We're out there doing brute force work, and engines are not going to go anywhere anytime soon. Alistair, similar question. We'll see an EV, right? And if so, when or why not? Yeah, so we are working on EVs. We have actually GIE this past year. We showed an electric stand-on mower. We're doing work in that direction. You're going to see a product from us at some point. There are some nice things about it. They're quiet. There's a simplicity of certain things. So there aren't belts and oil and grease and fittings and all those types of components, but they are higher technology, and so there's a balance of different things. But there is some definite potential in electric where you're in a low duty cycle application, especially trim mower, something along those lines, handles electric a lot better than flat out all day mowing or mobile mowers. So yeah, you'll see a little bit from us, but it's not going to be a wholesale change anytime quickly, not on a large scale. From Alan, will Wright be changing the standard AeroCore decks to the ZXT decks? So if you're not familiar with what he's saying there, most all of our AeroCore decks have a tapered surface on the back of them. And the reason for that tapered surface is when the air column is spinning, the air is expanding as you go towards the forward direction of the blade on the left side of the chamber. And that's often where the blade cuts least effectively. And so it's creating more vacuum as the air is expanding around the column to cut better there. And it's a feature that probably has the most effect on the very trim edge, like especially the last 2 inches of a deck. A lot of decks, that basically the left 2 inches are useless. And that's part of what you have to come back with a trimmer. And it's the difference between being able to just trim with one pass versus trying to have to sort of cut through what you're trimming. So we want, I say good to the last drop, like Folgers. We want that edge to be clean to the crisp edge. So it's a feature that probably especially matters more on like a 36-inch intensity. And what we found is that if we go to the flat back, more of a traditional back of the deck, we can handle heavy grass a bit better. And so when we came out with the ZXT, it was the flat back version of the ZXT deck. We'll probably see that migrate through some of our products through time, but we also have some chassis that actually are not compatible with it. So it'll be a thread of change over the coming years, but nothing anytime especially soon. From Nathan, when will autonomous options be available to general public, and what kind of price tags come with that? 2, as a business owner, reliable help is getting harder to find. What is the likelihood, or at what percentage rate do you think the autonomous mower will replace manual mowers? And from a safety standpoint, how reliable are their fail-safe measures? So first off, autonomous mowers are available. We build them every day. Now that comes with some caveats. What we're more concerned with right now is not just selling quantities of mowers. That's not in the business. That's not the business we're in. We're in the business of trying to create successful outcomes for your business. And with this newer technology, we want to see the site that you're running it on, make sure that you see what it can do, what it can't do, and that we believe that it's going to be a successful formula for successful formula with a good outcome. The other factor is that we have a dealer in your area that's familiar with the machine and supporting it, because a machine without support is a boat anchor. We know that. We talk about quality and all the things we do to make our machines bulletproof, but we also can't be so arrogant to say that machines don't break down sometimes, and it's really important for our dealers to be up to speed with the autonomous. We have a dealer in your area to do that. So yeah, they're available. You can get them. If you'd like one, reach out to us. We'd love to work with you on that. Reliable help is harder to find. True. What percentage can the autonomous mower cut? So here's the thing. What the machine can do today, you can put it on a property, you can put it on an acre with 3 trees. It'll go out there, it'll cut it, it'll go around the trees and whatnot. It will cut about as fast as you might cut. It'll be slightly slower in the turns, depending on the conditions. If you're slowing down for cut quality, then it's going to be pretty much the same. If you find yourself manually slowing down because it's a bumpy ride, the autonomous mower might outpace you a little bit. So in a setting like that, works easily. Now, if you get into an area where there's ditches and weird objects, and we've got training to kind of help understand what the machine can cope with in terms of complexity, that's not where the machine's great. So right now, commercial sites, some kind of a campus, soccer plexes, those are ideal sites. But here's the thing. The machine gets smarter every time it boots up, and the machine itself has all the technology to get in a really tight job set and work around very, very precise objects. It's really just a software thing, and that's continued to evolve. So even through this winter, the software's gotten a lot more capable and allowing the machine to get onto smaller and smaller job sites. But I would say we're not really anytime soon where you put it on a 1/4 acre residential lot. There's often just too many obstacles in that property to make it very effective. So I guess to wrap that question up, I do believe in 5 years, autonomous manual hybrid mowers are going to be very popular. And I think in 10 years, just about every major full-size commercial mower is going to have some type of autonomous or autopilot capability. So I think that is coming into play. How reliable are their fail-safe measures? Quite reliable. I actually think these machines are more safe than regular mowers because it's not making any judgment calls. The thing's looking for a flat plane, and if it can't recognize a flat plane of so large around it, it just shuts down. So it's quite good. It has 360 depth sensing vision, and nothing will happen until it validates that situation. And there's some nuances to it, like the faster it goes, the further it's going to perceive in the front of it. If it's turning, it's going to perceive a little bit more into the turn, a further distance out, than say something that's behind it when it's moving forwards. How reliable are the fail-safe measures? So we talked about that. Isaac, is Wright planning on making stand-on blowers, a multi-force machine that will compete with Toro's grandstand multi-force? I know Ed has already addressed the fact that Wright is not going to make a clamshell-style dumper for the leaf vac system, but is that off the table forever or just time being? Same points as above. All recent problems stem from lack of available labor, so making one-person crews more efficient is really important. Yes, absolutely. So first off, I would love to have a multi-force or multi-task machine, an all-season machine. It's just a matter of resources. We have to be sure we're making the best mowers on the surface of the earth, because that's what we do before we dabble in other things. But I would absolutely love to be have a product like that available if at all we could. Clamshell. I would love to have a clamshell, but same thing there. We launched the ZXT, ZXL a couple of years ago. The cloth bags are about the 2/3 choice versus clamshells, and so that was the first thing we brought out. Eventually, I'd like to see a clamshell, but again, we're putting so many resources into keeping up supply chain issues that we're not going to see a dump from the seat real soon. And I think there's a few things in mind that we could do to make clamshells better than most of what you've seen out there. So yeah, there's some thoughts there. Making one-person crews more efficient is really important. Or even two-person, actually making anybody more efficient is important. Yes, absolutely. That's why our machines are low maintenance, less, flat. Every machine has flat free front tires. We're now selling ZKs with dual wheels. I think there's another question that gets to that in a bit because of downtime there. Oil guard, that's another machine tool that keeps machines out there. Reliability of the machine, that's important. Machines that are very versatile, and that's part of the challenge. If you have a walk behind plus rider crew setup, each of those machines does a particular different thing, and so they're less versatile. Whereas if you have stand-on mowers, they're way more versatile. You can use here, there, or the other place, and we even see that with the duals. So there's a number of folks that run 72-inch duals, and because the duals are not just for hills. What's interesting, the thing about duals is they help the 72-inch deck not scalp because you've got that much more tread on the ground to control the contour. The wheels won't dip in a hole because they just span across it. Or if there's a bump, when you have duals, you tend to run closer to like 10, 12 PSI. So if you go over a small bump, it's absorbed by the tire. So versatility is important, and our 72-inch stand-ons really are helpful for that if you're doing medium size and larger lawns. Let's see here. Joey, will the right intensity or X have the power bagger like the ZK, but a smaller version to match the horsepower and size of the machine? Maybe from 3 bags to 2 bags. We've definitely looked at that. We're kind of moving our second season with the ZK mounting on the back, and what we're seeing is it does get really heavy, which works great for the ZK chassis. On the intensity, we already run concerns there on rutting. When you have these little tiny narrow machines, they have to have somewhat narrow tires, and you put weight on the back, now you got to put more weight on the front, and you got most of your weight over the rear axle. That's really the concern. It's the weight involved in doing that. So I'll never say never, but there isn't anything necessary in the pipeline for that at the moment. For the Standard X, there's an argument to say, hey, there should be baggers for it. But on the other hand, a 52-inch ZK is a much, much better chassis for it. You've got bigger tires to carry the load across the ground. You've got a much stronger drivetrain. You have way more horsepower to drive that bagger. And yeah, the ZK 52 or 61 is really the choice if you're looking to bag versus the Standard X. Standard X with 20-inch tires, 1-inch axles, that's a tall order. I know that there's other people that offer baggers on that size machine, and we felt like those were the issues, and so that's why we made that bagger fit up in the ZK and our blower to be compatible with high horsepower engines. Smith's Lawn Care. I'd like to have Kohler again. Tour X Mark have and doesn't seem to be having issues. I put nearly 1,000 hours on 2 Kohler powered ZK's machines before I traded up. What's Ed's best thing to do when he's not working? Okay, first off, I'm not necessarily loyal to any one engine brand. What I am is I'm more loyal to your success, and I'm loyal to quality. And so what I do is we pick out the best engines available. And no engine manufacturer makes the perfect range from bottom to top. And so it just happens to be right now that we don't have an ideal position for a Kohler option. Part of it is their biggest engine. Just it's massive in size for the class of engine, and so it doesn't fit all that many chassis. So what else here? Yeah, Kohler engines can last a really long time. Like any component, if you put too weak of an engine on a big machine, it's going to suck the life out of that engine. You put a big enough engine on a machine that's a well-built engine, yeah, they can last quite a long time. So yeah, it's not so much about brand, it is about the best engine for the application. What's the bed's best thing to do while not working? I do a lot of that these days. I love tinkering with stuff. I got my pilot's license a couple years ago and had some fun with that. I haven't been up in the air in a while. Hope to get back up soon. So yeah, mostly mechanical type stuff. I've got 5 kids, and so we do a lot of stuff. Steven Simple would like the operator pad on the ZK to be revamped to a thicker, more contoured pad. Can Wright design their own OCDC with electric controlled? That'd be nice. The operator platform is too springy so the platform is then too stiff. So first off, we have some things in the pipeline that we're looking at relative to the pad. It'll be a while before it's there, but we'll see some stuff there, especially on the larger machines. Can Wright design their own OCDC? So the concern there is, as soon as you've taken a device that says, okay, we're going to run the machine with the chute open, there's just a lot of issues, and you'll see that basically every mower manufacturer doesn't offer one unless it's really complicated and maybe the chute goes up and it closes at the same time, or these types of things, which is most of the time what you don't want. And so you'll see that most of the chute deflectors or chute mechanisms are coming from smaller independent companies that make them as an accessory. But from OSHA standpoint, it's hard to make the argument that we're going to go running a mower with the chute open. Oh, and to that point, the autonomous mower only comes in a mulch deck. We only mulch with it. It has a 40-horse engine on it too, which works pretty well. The platform, we're evolving some of our designs in the future to have longer range, so it's a little bit softer ride. The reason why we use those little donuts versus springs, like a lot of our older machines had springs, the springs rebound the exact same amount of energy that is compressed on them, and it creates kind of a diving board situation, whereas the rubber things, they actually dissipate energy when they are squished, and when they come up just enough slower, so you don't have as much of a constant bounciness. So that's generally why we use those in many cases. We have some that have a mix of springs. Green space. Will we ever make a diesel zero turn? Probably not. So when they came out with the rules on the after treatment systems for engines over 25 kilowatt, was it 19 kilowatt, whatever it was, it really took the fun out of diesel. It made a diesel that was more than 25 horsepower. It was 25 horsepower. Really not very affordable or practical, because the benefits you got from diesel were offset by the expense of that system. So the benefits of diesel really kind of don't kick in again until you get up to 75 or 100 horsepower. So there's kind of this black hole in the middle of the of engine viability. So no, we probably won't see a diesel zero turn anytime soon. When are we going to release more apparel? I would like to see bigger apparel selection. Absolutely, we agree. Our current apparel site is serviced through Shopify with independent and on-demand producers of the apparel, and we are in the process of moving to a single provider that stocks everything, and so they're doing like just about everything's embroidered or screen printed rather than digitally printed, and so there's going to be a lot more options. We've had some concerns about quality, so we've made some improvements there. So keep an eye on that. We definitely have some more apparel in the pipeline. And I would also like to see, many of you are busy, you don't have time to go to the store and buy clothes and that kind of thing. We are looking at making options that are the type of thing that you could wear every day, or you could wear on the weekend, or you could wear to church on Sundays, a nice pullover, and the logo's not like, plastered all over it. So that's in the works. We also have Carhartt upset some people a couple years ago, and so we have a non-Carhartt type jacket that's pretty nice jacket. So yeah, we got some stuff coming. Would using a snowmate or a push plow rust the cutting deck? Um, yeah, anytime you take a mower and you put it out in the salt, it's going to have some effect on it. But at the end of the day, if you need to get what you need to get done, do it. Yeah, you want to keep your machine nice, but it's a tool. And so if you take it out in the salty weather, it will affect the deck slowly by slowly. Jorge, what's the forecast on equipment availability through 2023? So we are producing a lot of equipment every day. Things have been really ramped up, and there's a process to accumulate that inventory back up. We're not going to be at max inventory through the spring. Our dealers have good stock. I would say if there's a particular model you're looking for, definitely buy it early. Shop early, but we're not going to be as tight as we were last spring for sure. Will we see bigger hydro systems on the 52-inch mowers to compensate for wheels in the future? I don't know exactly where this comment's coming from. So a few things on it is, first off, the ZK, the 24 by 12 tweel for the ZK had this long offset. It was perfect for a 61-inch deck. But if you wanted a 52-inch ZK with tweels, you had to buy what we called our reverse flip kit. And so you had to take the hub off, put long studs on the hub, and an extension, and then mount the wheel backwards so the offset came inwards to the frame. Tweel now, per our request, has made an offset that works for the 52. So we have a tweel for the 52. You bolt it right on with no modifications. And we're also selling we're building factory direct, the Vanguard powered ZKs are available with tweels, brand new. So, and it's like pretty much the same price either way. So if your dealer has a mower with regular tires and you buy the tweels to put it on, that's what they have. It's the same thing. But especially when we have fleets that maybe run all tweels, it just makes it a lot easier to offer them as a factory option. Let's see where we are. We don't fit the tweels again on 52. So we don't disallow the 18.5-inch tweels on a standard X. It's completely fine. 18.5-inch wheel, I really would have wished they'd made that a 20-inch tweel. But it fits nicely like on a 42-inch intensity. It's a perfect size wheel. If you put it on a 36 intensity, the tweel is going to stick outside the width of the deck. How do you continue to differentiate in an increasingly saturated market? The market's actually quite big. We're not necessarily at all close to saturation. How do we differentiate? Well, I don't think differentiation is our goal. Our goal is to help you run the most profitable, successful business that we can. And we're on the constant learning curve, listening from you, the things that we learn on how to make better equipment that it lasts longer, it's higher performing, it's more reliable, it costs less. So it's just a constant pursuit of that. It does mean there's some people that are copying our products, most notably Xmark. Straight up copied our standard X, detail by detail. A significant amount of the weldments are probably directly swappable. So are we differentiating ourselves? No, but we're minding our own business and just focusing on you and your success. And that's a forever pursuit. We haven't reached perfection. We never will. And it's the dissatisfaction with that gap, the tenacity to chase improvement that makes all the difference. Cooper, is a 40 horsepower coming to the ZK? So we do offer the 40 horse on the autonomous ZK, but we're probably not going to see it on the standard ZK immediately or real soon. It will probably eventually happen. Before you get overly excited about it, let me just make sure, clarify the difference between a 37 and 40 horse. So the engines have the exact same displacement. The only difference between the engines is one has a different throttle body and it's got a digitally controlled throttle. The other one has mechanically controlled throttle. Now, when you take the mower into deep grass, the engine just starts to bog down, right? And to compensate for that, the throttle opens. And the digital throttle responds a little quicker and a little bit more than mechanical throttle. Now, as soon as that engine begins to bog down, whether it's mechanical or electrical, both those throttles are wide open, and it doesn't matter at that point. Displacement is what matters, and that both the engines have the same displacement. So the difference between a 40 and a 37 horsepower is right when you're on that edge of high idle and load. The electric one responds a little bit better, but once you're in deep grass, they deliver pretty much identical results. So the 40 is nice. It has some improvements, but you don't think of it as a vastly different amount of horsepower. Could we expect smaller EFI engines from Brian? Yes, EFIs will continue to come down the chain. When you get down to a 36-inch machine or something like that, the runtime and the horsepower that goes through that machine makes it hard to justify the cost and complexity of EFI. So the great thing about a carburetor is they're super easy to work on, pop it on, clean it out, put it back on, whatever. Doesn't require a lot of diagnostics. Whereas EFI, there's more complexity there. And when you're running an engine that, is producing a ton of power, you can save a ton of fuel, and that complexity is justified. But when you get into smaller and smaller engines, it's less and less justified. Now, EFI gets better, and that's why better and cheaper, that's why we see it slowly munching down into the mid-size and eventually smaller size machines. It'll be a long time before we see 36s with EFI. Is a 36 intensity tweel possible? No, Michelin's tweel just simply is too wide. If you did want to put it on there, I've heard of it being done. I don't recall exactly what that overhang is, but it's probably 1.5 inches, maybe something like that on each side, maybe even 2 inches. So you're not going to get through a gate with it, and you can't put a grass catcher on the trim side, otherwise it would hit the tweel. But diameter-wise, it'll fit up fine. What's the life expectancy of a B36? I'm part-time and use it as my main mower. Yeah, B36s, they're bought commercially every day. It is a commercial mower. The thing about small mowers is, like our intensity, it's built with like ZK type methods. It's built for 1,000 hours a year, but nobody really has the application to put 1,000 hours on a 36-inch machine a year. Anytime you're doing that, running a 36, you're usually doing trim type work or smaller properties. And on smaller properties, you kind of inherently have more time on the road between those properties versus, you go to an HOA and you can run flat out all day long without driving. So that's where the 36B fits in. If you're putting 500 hours a year on that machine, it'll last years. And that's a shift that we're seeing. And you're going to see some more things around that. But the B36 is really a strong value proposition compared to the standard intensity, and it comes with some perks like platform travels a little bit further, has a little bit bigger diameter wheels, a couple things like that. So I think that's pretty much it. Appreciate all of you that put in questions, and I hope that you'll stay in touch, and we'll do this a little bit more regularly here through the spring. Hope you have a great spring.